Thank you for joining us for our latest episode of Ask Humber. My name is Paul from the Student Recruitment Department. Today we're going to hear from our biomechanics students and faculty in one of their labs. And today we have Fabian Rain, the program coordinator from our Exercise Science and Lifestyle Management program. So Fabian, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, my name is Fabian Rain. I'm the program coordinator for the Exercise Science and Lifestyle Management program. That program is a one-year post-grad certificate program, and it targets specifically kinesiology students, human kinetics students, and phys ed students all across the country. Most of our students do come from Ontario, but we do have students that come from all over, and in addition to international students from all over the world, really. Today we're basically focusing on our Biomechanics Lab, as you can see. And our theme of today is occupational health and performance when it comes to biomechanics. We have two amazing instructors here today who are going to lead the session. So our first instructor is Kevin. So I'll just let Kevin briefly introduce himself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kevin Cairns, and we are going to be looking at the performance from both what the worker can do, and then the second part is what is required in the job. So this is going to give the students the skills to be able to go out and work in industry, to work for employers, to help with return to work programs.
Amazing. Thank you, Kevin. And our second instructor who's going to be leading today is Kia. Kia, again, works in our Biomechanics Lab, and I'll let Kia introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Kia Sene. I am a professor in the Fitness and Health Promotion and the Kinesiology Department. I've been here for a long time. In this lab today, we're going to take a look at a few different things. So we have a treadmill with motion capture system. What we'll end up doing with this is we have markers on our runner, and as he runs, we take a look at joint angles. We can take a look at forces. There's a force blade embedded in this treadmill, so as he runs, we can take a look at his landing forces. On the side, I have force plates. We're going to take a look at counter movement jump and the effects of both the loading phase and the landing phase of that. And then last but not least, we have our students doing a couple of different tasks, and we take a look at the muscle activity as we go through that. So we have an EMG system. As you can see, the electrodes are already connected. So we'll take a look at that. So I'm more on the performance fitness side of things as it pertains to biomechanics, and a little bit on the clinical side of things. And Kevin does a little bit more work-related stuff. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you, Kia. I got one. Thank you.
Kevin.
Awesome. So we're going to turn it over to Kevin now, who's going to sort of talk about the occupational biomechanics piece when it comes to health. So I'll just, turn it over to Kevin.
All right, well, why don't we come over to our first station here, and we can take a look. So when we're doing, you guys can go ahead and do what we were doing before. So when we're looking at return to work, one of the things that we're going to want to try and understand is how much force that the person can produce. So here we have our patient or our client, and what force did we get there?
We got 23.4 kilograms.
So we're able to measure the amount of force that they are able to produce with this device here, and then we would be able to look at what the job demands were in the actual workplace. So we would be taking a look at how much force does it take to move a cart when we're doing those things. So it's being able to compare the potential worker with the workplace. We can slide over here to station number 2. And so, what are you guys working on here?
We're trying to look at range of motion, and one test we're going to use is him having to have his shoulder extend on internal rotation angles measured. So I'll have you in position and 0 diameter. And if you could please do external rotation. Sure.
You guys want to go?
So
Winston?
His angle is 69.1 for the external rotation, and
when you go
ahead and do the external rotation.
And so what we're looking at here now, you can keep going. What we're looking at here now is to determine whether or not there's any impairments in our patient. So we can compare this person's range of motion scores versus what we would expect from a normal, uninjured person, and then we would translate these things into more functional tasks like our pushing over here, or before in our final station that we're going to take a look at over on the other side, which would be taking a look at the lifting portion that the person is going to be able to do. So we're trying to translate the diagnostic piece here with the injuries, and then how does that translate into their function for return to work. So the last station that we would be looking at here would be our lift station. What we're trying to do here is recreate what they would be doing in the workplace. And so we have, and this is, all of these tools are tools that they would be using in a clinical setup. So this is part of our, what we call FCE in a box setup. And so this is a portable ladder here that can be flexed up. The lifting portions can be put on so that people are able to perform these assessments either on site with the employer, or they can easily set them up in a limited amount of space in their clinical environment. So here I would be looking at returning this patient here to work. They've been in my rehab facility for a while. I need to determine, can they return back into their workplace and perform the duty of lifting from floor to waist. So I would ask my patient here to lift this up and put it up on the shelf and bring it back down again. And because we're in a biomechanics lab, we would first of all be trying to correct the biomechanics so that our patient isn't going to get hurt. So before we even started to talk about what their maximum ability is going to be, then we would be looking at doing some postural correction. So I might then, do you want to come in and demonstrate the proper, why don't you just demonstrate the proper technique and things that you would be looking for?
All right, so when we looked at our client, he picked it up in a pretty good posture, but then he overreached, which is compromising to his spine. So I would then recommend that he takes a step closer and then is in a comfortable position to put the weight onto whatever platform he's putting it. So I'll ask you to do it again, this time with the right biomechanics.
You can bring that back down again. So this test here would be progressive in nature. We would keep increasing the weight. We would be looking for biomechanical breakdowns. That would be giving us our test endpoint when the biomechanics actually broke down, not because of poor technique, but because of weakness in a particular area that they had. Once we determined what their actual maximum ability was, then we would be able to look at the return to work piece that way. So that's all the stations that we have. Is anything else that you wanted to
that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So yeah, Kevin teaches in the ESLM program, as mentioned. He teaches the occupational health and disability management course, and does a fantastic job. And I know the students really take what they've learned in that course and they use it in the workplace. So Kevin, thank you so much for that. We're going to turn it over now to Kia, who's going to kind of talk about the performance related side when it comes to biomechanics. So Kia?
So I'll have Izzy step onto our force plate. So it's just going to take a baseline, as you can see there. So I've connected my iPad so you can see this on the screen as we go through. So the top line is the combined weight, and then we have right and left side as she's going through. So Izzy's going to perform 3 counter movement jumps, hands on hips. She's going to go down, no pause at the bottom. She's going to jump and land, and then we're going to take a look. So you can see the first rep was recorded. Perfect. We're going to do a second rep, the exact same thing. Perfect. Awesome. And then we'll do this one last time as well. So you can see the landing force there. Again, discrepancies between right and left side. Perfect, that's good. So I'm just gonna stop this and I'll have Winston pop in here. Just 1 second. I'm gonna upload the results. I'm gonna repeat the test. So I'll have to zero it again and step on, please. So we'll do the exact same thing here. He'll wait for the weight to be completely, there we go. So again, you can see right and left side, hands on your hips. He's going to go down, no pause at the bottom, jump as high as you can, and land. And again, we can take a look at the landing forces. So some of the data we get from here, as it got the first rep. So let's do that one more time. It didn't catch that, so let's do that one more time. So down, no pause, and jump back up. Good, smart system, so it'll just catch, and we'll go from there. So again, some of the data we get, the differences between right and left side, the landing force as a percentage of his body weight, and how we can modify that. If there is differences in terms of the loading as he goes down, the speed of that, and the speed of landing, we can take a look at all of that. Let's do 2 more reps here, Winston. Down and back up. Perfect. 1, and let's do 1 more. Good. So this system actually does have a camera as well. We're not showing that, but it does have a camera. We can take a look at each of these reps as we go through. Perfect. We're going to shift gears. Thank you, Winston. We're going to shift gears and take a look at a running analysis on the treadmill. So we'll shift. JD, do you want to switch the screen to the treadmill screen? So I'll give a brief background of what's happening here. As you can see our screen. So we have infrared cameras. These are the same cameras they would use if they were shooting an animation movie in his example. So the exact same thing. So in every second there is 1,000 times there is an infrared signal that's bounced off of each of these markers and back to the cameras as he moves in 3D space. It's capturing how these markers are moving in 3D space, and then you can see we have a stick figure resembling a 33 markers that we have on him. 35 markers that we have on him. At the bottom of the screen, you can see all 35 markers are seen by our cameras, so he's good to go. What we have to do is we take a static one to make sure that there is no movement. The cameras are seeing everything, so JD has done that already for us. Thank you.
You stopped it.
Sorry? Oh, perfect. Okay, so we're going to get the treadmill going. We'll give him a little bit of time to adjust first, and then you can see on the screen as he starts running, you can see the movement.
Can you hold on to the, right, like, I'm going to start it up. Okay, 8 kilometers per hour. Ready?
So that big red arrow that you see on the screen is the force plate data we get from under the treadmill. So every step that you take, we're measuring the force of landing through the treadmill. So we're going to up the speed. We're going to get our first trial, and we're at 12 kilometers an hour. We can capture. So some of the data we would be looking at is his landing pattern, whether he's more of a forefoot or a heel striker. That's something we want to look at. And then the joint angles. So I'm going to show you the report afterwards. We get all the analysis done here, and we'll show you the report. We're going to up the speed a little bit so you get familiar, and then we'll capture again. So we're going to up to 14 kilometers an hour. So we're going a little bit faster. So we expect the landing forces to change a little bit. The speed is a little bit faster. We're going to have more landing. Captured. Good. You're good? We're going to go one higher. We're going to take you to 16. So we're about 10 miles an hour now. That's perfect. We're going to capture this last one. And that's excellent. We're going to bring you down in speed, and then we'll stop it. It'll abruptly stop, so you probably want to hold on. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Awesome. How you feeling? Good? Hey, come on down. I'll show you the report, and we're going to discuss it. So we have to upload this data to a separate program. You're going to take a look at that in a second, but once we are ready for that, I'm going to show you, we have some comparisons. We get an 18-page report of everything from the joint angles from top to bottom. How's your head moving? How's your trunk moving? Hips, knees, everything that you would care about in terms of performance. And then we're going to take a look at the landing forces as well. The differences between whether you're more of a forefoot striker or heel striker, we're going to be able to see all of that on our report. So we're going to do that, and the report's a PDF, so we can then share that with you. Sounds good?
Okay.
Something you can use in terms of performance. While that's happening, I'm going to set up my EMG devices, and then we'll go from there. Sounds good? All right, so we'll leave that on. Okay, so. Okay, so I'm just going to give a quick review of what we're doing here. So we use an EMG device to take a look at the activity of the muscle. The reason for this is typically we can't really measure the force that the muscle produces directly. We can see the result of that, and that's a bunch of muscles working together. But in order to know what's actually happening with each of the muscles, this is the best way that we can take a look at what's happening in terms of the activity. So what happens is your motor control system sends a signal down, the muscle contracts, and this is the electrical activity of the muscle that's being measured. So I have bicep, tricep, brachioradialis on both sides, and I have to define this for my program so it knows that's what's happening, and once that's done, we actually will get to do some bicep curls as an example with 2 dumbbells. We can take a look at the differences between right and left side, which muscle has more activation, which muscle has less activation, so on and so forth. So we get a lot more clinical data from this. So I'm going to get you to sit down. I'm going to set this up in a second. JD, let me know if you're ready. I'll explain that, and then we'll jump back to this. Sorry? Yeah, let me know whenever you're ready. Yeah, okay. So why don't I explain the report for the running, and then we'll go back to EMG. Okay, so the 3 speeds that we talked about, 12, 14, 16, and that's here. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is step length, stride length. So step is right to left, stride is right to left to right. So it's 2 steps. And we can take a look at the differences between right and left side. He's fairly symmetrical, as you can see, on most of them. As the speed went higher and higher, he's actually more and more symmetrical, which is a good thing. I don't know what your training is like, but it seems like you're a little more symmetrical as you go. So we can take a look at the stance time, flight time. So how much time is he not in contact with the treadmill? Both feet are off the ground. So again, taking a look at the differences between them, the right and left fairly similar, right and left very similar, right and left very similar. So looks good. Let's move on to the next page. So I mentioned we can take a look at different angles. First one we're taking a look at is the knee angle. Every time his foot strikes, what's the knee angle? And I'm interested in the differences between right and left side. So you can see it's identical. That looks really good. There's some standard deviation, but it's very identical. On these ones, so again, you can take a look, the left and right are fairly different. So the normal has to be identical. His is a little bit different here, a little bit different here, a little bit different here. This could tell us whether or not he's had an injury before. Have you had right-left injury at all in terms of knees? So it could be a compensation pattern. That's something to look into further as we take a look at this data. Can we go down a little bit more? So every time his foot strikes versus the distance between the hip and the foot, we're taking a look at the differences between right and left side. And again, you want this as close as possible. If there is significant differences, that's something that we need to look into more clinically. Let's go down a little bit more. How the pelvis moves as he's going through this, how the pelvis moves, so you can see this. As you go through, the shaded line is the norm, what it should look like, and as different speeds, he's following the same pattern as the norm, which looks really good. Let's move on to the next page, please. From the front, how his pelvis is moving, so side to side, front and back, and rotation from the top. The shaded area is the norm, and he's following the norm at all speeds. So again, it looks good. Within the norm, no problems there. Let's go down a little bit more. So this is the same thing in terms of, we just have the data. Again, if I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into it, I would look at the actual numbers, but I showed you the patterns. So let's move on for the sake of time. The knee angles, we can see this is the norm again, the shaded area. He's following the norm for each of them. The rotation of tibia, rotation of, the knee, the shaded area, and he's following the shaded area. So again, no concerns there. Let's go down a little bit more. We get rotation of the lower part of the leg, so tibia. And again, that's something that we want to take a look and see, is he following the norm here? Let's move down a little bit more. So I mentioned a little bit about ankle, so where he is landing with respect. So dorsiflexion would be he is more of a heel striker. Plantar flexion means he's more of a forefoot striker. So we're going to take a look at that. Let's go down one more. So, and when we talk about picking the right shoe, whether or not he's a pronator or supinator, so if he needs too much support or too little support, we can take a look at that here. Again, he's following the norm here, no problems there. So the shoe that you're wearing is good for your running, no issues there. Let's go down one more. So I mentioned the contact. Positive angle means he's a heel striker, negative angle means he's a forefoot striker. So he's a negative angle. So he's a forefoot striker. He's more of a forefoot striker. His heel doesn't really strike the ground as he goes through, which is good. Why don't we just go down? So there's a lot more data here. I'm just going to summarize. Let's go down all the way down. And I'm going to show you. So this is his arms, how his arms are moving, how his torso is moving. All of that is here. Let's go down a little bit more. A little bit more. So how his wrist is moving. Down a little bit more. So I mentioned briefly about the landing force. Can we go down one more with the landing force? So this is, and it's cut off, so it's probably even more, but every time he lands, how much force is going through his system compared to his body weight? So it's more than twice his body weight with every landing. That's how much force goes through his system. So someone who is 70 kilos, as an example, that's about 700 newtons. Twice that is 1,400 newtons, and it's more than that every single time. So it's really taxing on the body. That's why strength training is so important for runners to be able to absorb some of that shock as they go through. So with probably less than 5 minutes of running, we have about 18 pages of data on him from top to bottom, what he can do differently. And again, if you have a performance coach or a clinician, you can get a lot of data out of this and start modifying your program based on that. Sounds good? So we'll give you a PDF of this after. Sounds good? Okay, I'll set up here. One second.
Perhaps I can jump in here while it's a little quiet. I just want to introduce JD. You keep hearing Kia refer to JD. JD's our lab tech, so JD's the guy behind the scenes doing all the work behind the scenes that you never really see too much of. But we appreciate everything that JD does. He works with all our labs, the KIN labs, the fitness and health promotion labs, and obviously the exercise science and lifestyle management labs. So thank you, JD. Appreciate it.
Okay, as I connect this, 1 second, I'll tell you when to start. Ready? 3, 2, 1, and go. Do it together, yeah, nice and slow, and back down. Good, and slow. Good, let's do one more. Perfect, that is good. All right, we're gonna disconnect yours and connect John, and I'll show you the data in 1 second.
So what are you doing there, Q, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm measuring the activity of each of these muscles. So I have a wireless probe here.
Yep.
So each of these muscles is its own individual channel, so I can see the activity in millivolts. If I took a maximum value, I can see what percentage of maximum he's working at. If he's only lifting 10 pounds, then if I give him 20 pounds, if I give him 30 pounds, so on and so forth, how that's changing the activity of the muscle. So this is a very easy, non-invasive way to take a look at muscle activity. And in our study, we're actually combining these two together. Nice. So as someone is running, not only I know what the angles are, I can also look at what's causing those angles to change, because I have the activity activity of the muscle as well at the same
Amazing.
time. So as we're getting a little bit better with combining different tools, we're getting more and more data, and we can actually use that data in terms of being able to come up with a comprehensive program for someone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to disconnect these. John, I'll get you to have a seat, and then we'll go through this one by one. Sorry, I have to. Fabian, if you want to jump in for a second, because I have to disconnect these.
No
and then
problem,
connect
no
again.
problem. So as you can see, lots going on here. We're going from kind of the occupational biomechanics piece with Kevin, where we're looking at, joint range of motion testing. We're looking at how we lift, making sure that our biomechanics is correct, especially if you're in the workplace where we're trying to avoid injuries, things like that. So really important. Perhaps I can get Kevin to just kind of talk briefly about some of the jobs that students may be looking at once they get into the field.
Sure. I mean, while we're sitting here too, other things that people always get very excited about, we can take a look at the grip strength here. So you can go ahead and give that a little squeeze on there. My goodness, 116 pounds. So one of the things that we could be looking at with this is a clinical tool that we would be utilizing. So when we're looking at kinesiologists in clinic, oftentimes they're just doing therapeutic exercise stuff. And what we're trying to bring in with this occupational side of things is a whole new revenue stream for the clinics. So many kinesiologists would like to have autonomy, and this autonomy can be delivered by having an occupational health program as part of the clinic. So the clinic can then provide services directly to the employer, and those services would be things like the functional capacity evaluation for return to work, the job demands analysis that we would do to take a look at what the demands in the actual workplace would be, and then combining those with the ergonomics to make changes into the workplace. The nice thing is that other practitioners aren't skilled in these particular areas. So if you take a look at physical therapists, chiropractors, they're all very focused on the person, which is fantastic. But if we're looking for something for kinesiologists to have autonomy inside of, this occupational or returning the person back to work or integrating function back into the workplace really gives them an ideal place to be looking at inside of there. So yeah, at some point, Key and I will get together and we'll be able to take a look at the actual sort of numerical values that we might get here on a grip device and combine that so we could actually take a look at. We would be using this to look at the grip strength that would be required to performing particular functions at work. But if we were looking at combining it with sort of therapeutic practice, we could then, so this as Kia pointed out, is not very granular. It's just giving one number, so we're not really sure where the actual impairment is with our particular individual. So by integrating sort of a gross tool like this with the intricate granular device that would be taking a look at the individual musculature, we could then really target our therapeutic exercise to that particular piece. But then the problem with really there are targeted things is we can't then translate to the workplace. So then we have to come back out again and use devices like this to be able to tell the employer, the insurer, what is the person actually capable? Are they able to do the things, are they able to do the functional things that they would be required to do? And it's not just simply into the workplace. We also talk about things like activities of daily living. So if we're looking at maybe the largest growth segment that we have right now, we have our baby boomers going in, my parents in particular looking at transitioning from their home into another environment. We can also be measuring function to see what they're capable and they're able to do in that place. So in terms of marketability and skills, these kind of functional skill sets are going to be very useful, not just right now, but as we progress and we start to see the changing landscape in terms of what the needs are in the environments that we're looking at with an aging population. So we can be looking at the younger people for return to work, and then we can also be looking at an older population for going on that way.
EMG is used quite a bit in ergonomic studies for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that, even the motion capture now. It's very easy. There's app-based, so you don't need a fancy device like we have. It's great to have it, but it's something that people can then even use their phones to be able to do a lot of the stuff that we talked about. So there is a lot of combination of the two fields. Biomechanics, I look at it really in 4 different things. So it's occupational biomechanics is one side, performance, equipment design, so you know a little bit about that. So for sports, in terms of running shoe design, even hockey helmets and things like that. And then on the clinical side of things, if you're more into physio-chiro, things like that, there's a big portion of biomechanics. So there's really a big umbrella and 4 things underneath, and they're all kind of married with each other.
Hey, Alex, you want to bring that tool over as well? So we're going to just give you another combination. You're about to do your thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Take it.
So this is this tool that we were showing earlier can also be used as a gross manual muscle testing device. So this is actually a tool that I built. So this is a metrics a metrics tool. So we can place. Are you going to be doing like a bicep curl? Is that what you're looking at doing?
Yeah.
So we can actually use this tool here. So we would situate our person down, and he can push up on there. Excellent. I mean, in this situation, he's actually significantly stronger than I am. But we're able to get a number here of 30 kilograms. Okay, so what we're looking at is a gross force. So we're doing here in a therapeutic side of things is we're looking at treatment outcomes. So we can use function as a treatment outcome measure. So not just asking the patient if they feel better, but are we actually getting function to change? And so we can use these objective numbers in a treatment scenario. So if we're at 30 kilograms now, can we get him to 40? Can we get him to 50? Although I wouldn't be able to test him any longer if we were getting up into those kind of numbers. So
meanwhile, I have a 10-pound dumbbell for him to lift. Whenever you're ready, John, we'll grab that. So 3, 2, 1, and go. One more. Perfect, that's good. So I'm just going to show you quickly one for sake of time. So this is the activity of the muscle as he's doing his bicep curl. And again, I have different filters on the side, so I can really get this to look like the force. So if I had the force from what Kevin showed, and I wanted it to look like the force, I can use mathematical equations here. So high passing, low passing, normalizing it to look more like force. And again, the two will really represent, be connected with each other. So that's the last piece.
That's awesome.
Pass it on to you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kia. I really
problem.
appreciate it.
No problem.
This is all really exciting. So maybe I'll just turn it back over to Paul, and yeah, we can wrap it up, see if there's any questions or anything.
Amazing. First of all, thank you all so much for joining us today and all of you watching online. I just have a few quick questions.
Sure.
First question is, what would make the ideal applicant to any of our biomechanical programs?
Well, we're specifically looking at the exercise science and lifestyle management program, which kind of encompasses kind of all the areas of kinesiology. So biomechanics is kind of one area, but we also have tons of different areas in kin. But in terms of the biomechanics piece, we're really targeting 3 main groups. The groups that we're targeting are kin students, human kinetic students, and phys ed. So if you're in any of those types of programs, this post-grad certificate program is going to help you learn those practical things that you're going to need on the job. And I think a lot of students, once they come out, sometimes they may not be sure what they're looking to do.
For sure.
The exercise science and lifestyle management program really helps them kind of figure out, hey, this occupational thing, I didn't really know too much about it.
Yeah.
I like it. Hey, maybe the therapeutic exercise piece is something that I'm really interested in. I want to get into the clinical side of things, or maybe I like the performance stuff. So we really try to just expose students to all the different areas of kinesiology, and hopefully they're going to find something that they land on that they really enjoy.
It's amazing. And I think it's important to know that there's a ton of different careers as well in this field. It's not just being a kinesiologist or what have you. What makes Humber's programs different from other schools with similar programs?
I'm biased. I'm just going to be honest, but I think we lead from the front.
Yep.
What I mean by that is we're always trying to kind of improve our programs and look at where the next area is in terms of where the field is growing towards. What makes us different? I think our faculty is a really strong point.
Yeah.
Experts like Kevin, We have so many different, Anne, who works in cardiac rehab. I mean, I can go on and on about all the different faculty members that we have. Kia's doing some amazing stuff when it comes to performance and biomechanics. But our faculty and the fact that our students get the opportunity to practice the skills. It's not, I mean, there's some small didactic pieces where you're going to sit and, in a small short lecture, but really a lot of this is hands-on. And when myself and Julian, who's the associate dean, were talking and we were trying to create this series of Ask Humber sessions, we wanted to show the public, future prospective students, what practical learning looks like. 100%. So when you see this is what you're coming to Humber to do. Yeah. And you're going to learn those hands-on skills. And I wish I had this when I came out of school. I really do. Yeah.
That's amazing. We did have one question from the chat here. I'll just read it out. It might not be something we can fully answer right now, but we'll give it a shot. GLP-1 reduces lean muscle mass and therefore reduces the amount of glycogen stored. Sorry for the pronunciation. Theoretically, can creatine supplementation offset the deficit if one was looking to increase their performance? Passing the mic off here.
So the GLP-1 agonists, and so that is Ozempic and Mounjaro.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's
caught up.
I think they when people say GLP-1 agonist, it's trizepatide or it's been shown that it does end up. Some people lose 10, 15, 20% of the total body mass that they have. So one of the things that happens is the research is showing and the evidence is showing a lot of people are losing a significant amount of muscle mass. Sure. So creatine supplementation does not replace the muscle mass that you lose. Obviously, if that was the case, it would be amazing. So I have two answers to that. There is a drug that, don't quote me on this, but I think AstraZeneca is developing. It's in phase 2 of development that is showing better results in terms of muscle mass loss. Mm-hmm. So it has all the benefits of Ozempic and Mounjaro without the muscle mass loss. So that's one. Amazing. The second thing is, if you go to any endocrinologist, any doctor who can prescribe these drugs, the number one thing they do recommend is, in conjunction with using these drugs, to make sure that you continue with resistance training regimen at least 2 to 3 times a week to maintain muscle mass.
Amazing. So
it's not that they gain muscle mass, but being able to maintain as they lose a significant amount of body mass. So that's the answer.
And obviously talk to your doctor.
Absolutely, yes. Endocrinologist, yeah.
But once again, thank you for everyone who joined us today, both online and in this room. We'll have a lot more Ask Humbers coming up over the next few months and beyond. And we'll have a lot of events like our open house happening on April 12th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You could come in and take a look at some of these labs, classrooms for all of our programs. But we look forward to having you on campus, virtual, however you want to visit us. We are happy to have you. So thanks again and take care.